My plan today was to do a rather nice technical video, I suppose, in the wake of the semi-final EU decision on representative democracy, the failings it's been having recently, why it's set up the way it is, how that's supposed to act as a check and balance against ochlocracy, mob rule, and instead I'm forced to react to the UC Berkeley riots. This is kind of the way things are going now. Every day there's something to react to. I missed doing a video yesterday and I feel like I missed so much in doing that. And then I wake up to this, and all the plans that I had for things to talk about just go out the window. This is UC Berkeley, one of the main homes of the free speech movement of the 60s and 70s, and we have a mass violent protest, a riot, because an outrageously camp gay man with a few conservative viewpoints was going to hold a talk there. That's the big threat. That's what justifies this mass of violent action. A riot over a talk at UC Berkeley. A riot. The irony here, of course, is that they think this is a victory. They have no knowledge or understanding of history, and ironically, given that so many of them are probably sociology students, they have no understanding of how society works. I've talked about the history before. What people don't appreciate, because they pluck and cherry pick the wrong quotes, is that street violence helped fascism. Genuine fascism, historical fascism, not simply right-wing conservatives that they disagree with, which is what they're fighting now. They don't know what Nazis are. Everyone is a Nazi, which means no one is a Nazi. Most of Milo's audience, or a sizable chunk of Milo's audience, are fairly moderate conservatives, a lot of disaffected liberals and social libertarians, not even conservatives at all. He's come out against identity politics on the right. But no, everyone you don't like is a Nazi, and that justifies, apparently, violence. We've got people talking about violent insurrection, but against what? When you actually sit down and you examine, yes, there's objectionable things going on in government, but are they fighting government? No, they're shutting down a gay man's talk at a university in a country where your free speech is supposedly guaranteed. No, the lesson of history is that violence begets violence, and that it costs you sympathy, it costs you followers, it provides publicity and sympathy to your enemies. This is what happened with Oswald Mosley. This is what happened with the Nazis. Hitler credited the street violence with helping him to power, of winnowing out the weaklings in his own movement so that a stronger core remained. And that hardcore of the right, the far right, is up for a fight, and armed, and not some noodly armed sociology student. And you're giving them all the justification that they need to engage in violence or self-defense. Every brick thrown, every building set on fire, every Starbucks window smashed, every person assaulted creates sympathy for them to fight back in self-defense, and even just to fight, because speech isn't seen as deserving violence, but violence is seen as deserving violence. That's the lesson of history. You do not punch Nazis in the face. You do not riot when someone is only speaking, because that empowers them. It creates sympathy. It makes them stronger. So here is what is going to happen. You prevented him speaking. That goes against a core value enshrined in the US Constitution. And it's not just conservatives that care about the Constitution in the US. It's not just conservatives that care about free speech. You are costing yourselves liberals. You are costing yourselves many people on the left wing. You are costing yourselves the support of the media and of a huge swathe of the population. Milo's been prevented from speaking in one university so far, and as a result of that, much like his Twitter banning, he is now going to get a huge amount of publicity. He will get his message to far more people than a couple of hundred in a hall and a couple of thousand on YouTube. He will get to speak on a far wider basis to a far wider number of people who will now be inclined to listen. And when they go and they investigate and they see what he says and what he talks about, what are they going to find? Are they going to find a white supremacist Nazi? Or are they going to find a camp, gay, somewhat conservative on some topics, somewhat liberal on other topics person who, compared to the reaction he's gotten, is going to appear jovial and reasonable compared to the reaction that's been given to him? And then, what kind of credence are they going to lend these protests from here on out? When they investigate, whose side are they likely going to take, whether they agree with him or not? How many people are going to start following him because they're interested to see what else is going to happen, whether there will be more riots, what he has to say about it, what the reaction to him is? Spencer's followers, after just being punched, doubled and doubled again. Milo already has a huge amount of interest in everything he does, in the controversy and the jokes, and the way that he just cuts through po-faced social justice warrior rhetoric like a hot knife through butter. So what's going to happen now? Who's going to come off the worst out of this? It's not going to be fucking Milo, I'll tell you that much. And normally I would praise a hands-off police approach, because if the police waded into something like this, it would become a full-scale, full-on violent riot. Unfortunately, that has been avoided. But the cost of that has been people being assaulted, severely hurt, property being destroyed, and the police being made to look like sympathizers with the people doing this. And on the other side, if people can't rely on the police to protect them, that temptation to get armed, to get protection, to form their own combative groups is going to be all the stronger. We already had one shooting supposedly in self-defense at a previous Milo event. We can expect that to become more common, I expect. And if the police don't intervene, in the long term, that's just going to aggravate things. It's not yet too late to walk back from this. If you want to protest Milo, do it peacefully. Organise counter speakers. Learn his talking points. Learn to argue effectively with him. Learn to argue against him. And where he makes good points that you can agree with them. This is counterproductive. Furthermore, this spectre of totalitarianism, of fascism, of Nazism that you've conjured largely out of your own minds is going to become real the more you fight it, a sort of sociological tulpa. I know you desperately want to be important, to fight an important fight, but the fact is that most of the important fights over rights and so on have already been fought and won. Trump is a step backwards, but it's not fascism. It's certainly not Nazism. But you're going to empower the far right. You're going to push the US government and other governments further afield more to the right to enforce order. The more you do this, you need to win the argument. Not this. This isn't winning the argument. This is losing the argument and throwing a tantrum. But you shouldn't lose the argument. You, if you bother to, can construct the better arguments. You go too far, but you do have arguments in favour of humanity, in favour of equality, in favour of tolerance. But you've forgotten them all. This is why you're called the regressive left. This is why you're called social justice warriors. This is why people mock you and point out your hypocrisy at every turn. And this is why you are losing. But it's not too late to turn it around. Learn the history. Understand your enemy. Adapt your tactics to ones that work, because at the moment you're just making it worse and you're helping the very people you claim to be fighting.